In late 99, early 2000, Sega launched an ambitious new open-world action-adventure IP on the Dreamcast. Shenmue, I don't know. The game was a massive venture by Sega and an extremely long and costly project. From the day of release, the game was fated to be a bigger financial flop than Northern Rock being butt-fucked by Enron. Being the most expensive game made at the time meant that unless Dreamcast owners owed multiple versions of the game, it wouldn't break even, let alone return a profit.
The game followed the story of Ryo Hazuki, and although it was groundbreaking at the time, it was a pretty by-the-numbers revenge plot. A good old-fashioned "you killed my father, so I'm gonna kill you" framing for the narrative. However, Shenmue's presentation, attention to detail, and the story's unanswered questions pushed the game forward and made for a deeply immersive experience.
The game had a positive reception with the years of work showing in the end product. A massive and detailed open world, a real cinematic storytelling experience, and a satisfying fighting system blended all together to make an experience that really got people invested into what Sega had started. A sequel, which was already well into development, was released the following year, carrying on from the first game with the next chapter in Ryo's story. However, without getting too into specifics and any possible spoilers, the game finished on a cliffhanger that made you want to dive further into where the story was going.
The IP remained dead for years, with passionate fans scouring the internet for any clue or hint that Shenmue III would become a reality. After years of Sega being more silent than a recently startled mongoose stuck under the wheels of your favourite SUV, it was at E3 2015 that Shenmue III was announced as a Kickstarter project. Gaining its funding target within hours, Shenmue was back, and fans who have waited so many years were simultaneously stunned and elated at the announcement.
Now the dust has settled and the release of Shenmue III draws closer and closer. It really brings up some questions. Does Shenmue fit into the modern world of gaming? Does the project have the resources to deliver an experience that's like the first two games? And how can Shenmue III possibly live up to the hype?
In 1999, Shenmue was a revolutionary game, a real cornerstone in the development of the modern open-world genre, and like it or not, popularized QuickTime events and cutscenes. But by today's standards, its open-world area is relatively small, the English voice acting is awful, although it has its own sort of charm, QTEs have never been great, and the fighting feels stiff and unsatisfying.
So, how can Shenmue 3 move into the modern gaming space? A time where we know what we like in our open world games, where it's no longer a new genre with loads of room for innovation, with massively successful open world adventures already, from The Witcher 3 to Fallout 4, it seems unlikely that Shenmue 3 will be able to match them in terms of scale, but it may be able to offer a smaller and more intimate gaming world that you can learn just like the back of your hand, the likes of which we've lost in gaming's constant push for bigger and better. But you never know, right?
Back in the 90s, Shenmue was a massively ambitious title. Scores of people wearing double denim were involved in bringing it together, and loads of money was spent doing it. Now technology has come a long way, and to make a game the same scale of the initial two games would be a much cheaper endeavour.
But with around $7 million of crowdfunding and whatever other financial investments have been secured for the game's development, does the game's creator Ryo Hazuki have all the resources he needs in order to deliver a game where previous entries were notorious for going massively over budget? Will the game ultimately have to be released below the initially planned scope? It all leads to the possibility that fans could be getting an underdeveloped version of what they've originally been promised.
We've seen plenty of Kickstarter projects fail to live up to expectations, and the fact that a chunk of this game's budget is crowdfunded means you may not have the same creative freedoms that come with the blank check you got handed by Sega to develop the original games. Let's just hope we end up with a game without having to put our hands in our pocket again to finish a project that's just simply run out of money through poor planning.
Even if the previous two questions come through as a solid yes, even if Shenmue III lives up to its initial ambition, making a bold statement in the open world genre with interesting ways of delivering its story and is well put together and feels like a game that isn't underdeveloped, can any game ever live up to 17 years of speculation?
Ryo Hazuki had the whole Shenmue story planned out over many chapters from the very start, and whilst the series was on hiatus, fan speculation theorizing has been going for a long time. We'd even hazard a guess that some of these theories are more in tune with what fans want than Yu's actual planned story arc.
Storytelling in games has really had its bar raised since 2001. And it's going to take some amazing writing to give fans anything that's worth waiting 17 years for. That being said, Yu has had almost 2 decades to work on his story, move it on further, tweak it, edit it, streamline it. So you never know, he might just have something right up his sleeve.
Personally, we're still really excited to see how it all works out, and our fingers are crossed that all those fans who are more dedicated than a Rick and Morty fan beating up a 17-year-old McDonald's staff member for some Szechuan sauce aren't just marching straight into gaming's next big disaster.
Hopefully Shenmue can make a bit more of a showing at E3 2018 and give us more details so we can start getting that initial impression of how it's all shaping up. Regardless of what happens, we've already paid our money into the Kickstarter, and providing this game is released, we'll be getting our copy, and although there's apprehensions about how it's all going to come out, we'd most likely do the same again.
Shenmue 3 is still planned for a 2018 release, which will see the game launch on the PS4 and PC. Sorry, Xbox owners.
What's your thoughts on how Shenmue 3 is going to turn out? Do you think it will ever live up to fans' expectations? Please let us know in the comments underneath. And please, if you wouldn't mind, hit that subscriber button for us. We're only a small diddy widdy widdy mini channel, and it generally makes our whole day when one person subscribes to us. So please, if you enjoyed this, hit that subscriber button and check out a few more of our videos.